So, who is ready to go on a ghost walk? Or Spirit Stroll, they're calling it. Come with me to my small town's haunted history. You know you want to. So we started off in the middle of town and had no idea that there was a big event going on there. Like 2 events were planned at one time. So sometimes the sound gets a little wonky and I'll just voice over it. But here we go.
Okay. Upstairs in this building at one time was a funeral home. The man that built this building in 1909 was the undertaker here in town. Oh, he was kind of a strange character. We bought this building, the city bought this building, we closed on it February 14th of last year. Part of the deal was we were going to be supplied with inmates from the jail down here. This building was full of stuff, so we had dump trucks sitting here, so we'd bring stuff out of the building, put it on dump trucks and haul it off. But there were about 2 or 3 of us working outside here one day. And there was a young man who was incarcerated working in here. He was up on a scaffold working up in the ceiling right here. He came running out this door like he just saw a ghost. And what he said he saw was a elderly lady with short gray hair wearing a blue dress with flowers on. Now that's pretty straightforward. That boy saw what he saw. So doing a little research, the man that built this building was Parano Emmett, and his sister spent a lot of time in here. I suspect that was Mr. Emmett's sister. Her name was Lula McNairn, and from all indications, that kind of fits her to a T. But one thing he said that bothered him about this ghost, he thought ghosts floated. You know, as you see on TV. This ghost walked out of that back room, walked right across into that side there. Well, he got to thinking, there's no way out of there. So he got down and ran around there. There was no woman in there. And she had just gone there where there was no way out. So there's no doubt in my mind, knowing this boy, he saw something. I don't deny that he saw something. We had never heard any stories about the courthouse here. Actually, I used to work there. The basement door into that courthouse under there, I've been under there working before. It's pretty creepy under there. So, but I never heard anything much until somebody that worked in there came to me not long ago, as a matter of fact. And he asked me if he could tell me what went on in there. I said, sure. He said at night, he'd be in there after everybody had left. He'd hear doors close, things of that nature. Just normal things that people hear in buildings. He said he knows there's nobody in there, and he was hearing these things, and he was pretty concerned about it. But one thing was mentioned about somebody seeing an older man in there. So when I heard that, I got to thinking about what or who that could be. Mr. Hill was a young man at the beginning of the Civil War, but he went ahead and joined the Confederacy. There was a raid at Nichols Inn in Claysville, Alabama, and he lived in Claysville before the war. He got shot. He was one of the Confederates in a battle there, or skirmish as they called it. He got shot in the mouth, and he was deformed. His mouth and face was deformed the rest of his life. He crawled from that. They thought he was dead. They got chased away. He crawled to the river from Claysville. Pretty tough man who's shot and can crawl 4 or 5 miles. So anyway, it's kind of ironic. Mr. Hill got killed in the 1908 tornado. Chances are that was during the daytime. Everything on this side of town right here, y'all, got blown away. There's pictures. We have them in the museum. There's nothing. So I know his place got blown away. I'm sure he was at work. He didn't live in Iberville. He lived out near Arbor Acres Farm. So he got killed in the 1908 tornado. So if somebody's seeing a man in that building, chances are it's John Hill, the blacksmith, and he had a good business. So to get through the war like he did and get killed in a tornado as an old man is pretty bad.
One of the few buildings that was left standing in 1908 tornado. There's 30, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, 32 people died during that storm.
So the video gets very hard to hear right here. So I'm going to tell you what he's talking about. He recently renovated this building and opened a store, a gift shop, and a secret speakeasy. It is amazing. Anyway, while he was renovating, he kept trying to put up some things that required screws. Well, every time he would get to the last one, the last screw would be gone. So he did like the first window, and then he did the second window, and by the second time when he goes to get the last screw and it's missing, he's looking all over the floor just thinking it dropped. Anyway, he decides when he does the next one, he's going to keep his eye on the screw the whole time. So he is trying to put this, window up, and in the meantime, he's looking down back and forth, keeping his eyes on it. And all of a sudden, when he goes to put the last screw in, this time it's still there. But when he puts his hand down to get it, it moves.
I'm the only one in here. So, that's one of the stories that happened that made me kind of a believer. Well, the next time in Sticks and Bites here, I had some buddies, and we were in the back room, and there's a long hallway that looks through the door. And this is a speakeasy, so you have to go through a little hidden door that stays locked. It has a code, and that's the only way the door opens up if somebody puts the code in. Well, we were sitting in the back room, and my buddy turns around and looks and says, "Hey, Doug, is somebody else in here?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, that door just opened." This is about 9 o'clock one night, it's dark. So, on its own, somehow, that door opened up. There's no explanation for that. One other story, and this happened one night about 11 o'clock the night before we were to open. We were having problems with our point of sale system getting going. So I got a call about 11 o'clock, and I had to come up here and work on it. By the time I got here, I was the only one here trying to get it going. It is pretty spooky in here by yourself at night, but I got working on it, and I had to go move from one room to the next to get a screwdriver. When I walked in from this room to this room, I walked through, and when I did, I felt this cold rush of air behind my back. And when I turned around, there was this black fog that just kind of went by. And I have no explanation for that, but it made me a believer in some of the things that other people are saying.
The guy that had this building, they wanted to anybody else. There's a crawl space under this building. It don't look like it, but there is. So they sent him under there. He said, I'm not going back under this building.
I am.
We're not going to get a wire that's left up to me. And he said, well, why do you not want to go under this building? He said, there's a little girl under there playing. And I don't know, all y'all that grew up here in Iberville, when I was a kid, we used to hear about spirits of children here in town. I've heard it all my life. I'm going to tell a little story about something that happened right here. Alan, if I was you, I'd get off the road. The chamber down here, at least 2 people that have worked in that chamber building right there, see a young man in 20s period clothing. He's been in and out of the building there several times. And like I say, 2 different people seen him. They named him George. He wasn't George. In February of 1928, 2 young boys and about 6 or 7 years old, I'm not sure the exact age, got out of school and they came to Hewitt Drug. Hewitt Drug used to be in this building right here. They went in the drugstore and came back out, and a young man who was driving a car came around this corner too fast. Didn't see the boys. He missed one of them, hit the other one, and they're still family to this young man here in town. The family kind of blamed the boy driving the car. Some papers had some different stories around. But if there's a young man who's a spirit here in this area, it's probably that young man there.
Notice the left corner of this building. I'm going to tell you my own story about this that happened, about 5 or 6 years ago. Now, let me add my part of this story. A few years ago, I was on a prayer walk around 11 o'clock midnight with some other people in the downtown area. And when we got close to this building, over on the far left corner, I sensed something. And a friend of mine was walking with me, and he started walking over there, and I was like, I don't think you should go over there. And he said, no, I want to go. He said, there's something there. And I said, I know there is. And he said, I'm going to go try to talk to him. And I'm like, him? And he said, there is a little boy standing over there. I said, well, he's not real. He says, I know. He said, but I still want to see if he'll let me come up close to him. And I'm like, I could see in my mind's eye what this kid looked like, but I couldn't actually see him like my friend was seeing him. And I really just got an overwhelming sense of, we'll just say, not good. Anyway, he went on over and as he got closer, the boy disappeared. And so that was that. Now, that was long before I had ever heard this story about George or the boy that tends to appear. One story also is in the chamber that he walked in the building, like they literally heard the door open and saw him walk in and around the corner. So I don't think that our guide told us that, but that was actually on another walk that I did with this same person. A lot of birds here.
I've never heard of that one.
All the people around can also see you do that.
I know.
Everybody knows where the library is. You can see it right there, I think. The library has been rumored to have spirits for quite some time, and they built that library over in 1963, by the way. the ladies that used to be in there wouldn't talk about it. So the new ladies will, and they've seen stuff in there. They've seen, there's one that's actually seen an elderly lady in the library. I have been over there when the book just fly off the shelf for no reason. And that happens constantly, they say. So there is something going on there. Originally, they thought that since the elevator would go up and down by itself, that it had something to do with the elevator. So they thought, well, that's Mr. Finney. Is that right, Finney? The Finneys lived across the street over there. They donated the money to put that elevator in the library. So they thought, well, you know, we've got a spirit of Mr. Finney. But one of the girls over there told me, no, she saw an elderly lady going in the elevator. And she was pretty adamant about seeing the elderly lady go in the elevator. If you go to the library, watch for books flying off the shelves. They will fly off the shelves. I've seen it, so I can vouch for that. Or it did while I was there. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so I also have another addition to this, the library. Oh my gosh, how many times have I seen books fly off the shelves in front of us, me and the kids, when we were little? The elevator definitely goes up and down by itself. Now, maybe that's a fault. I don't know. I've never seen anybody on it, but definitely it will go up to the upstairs when there's nobody there. Now, there is another thing that you can find online that I experienced myself, and that is the water turning on. When my oldest son was very small, we were at the library, and I had let him, there's only one stall in there, and so I had let him go in, and I stood outside the door, and, you know, made sure that nobody went in or tried to go in. So he gets done, he comes off, I don't hear anything, but I'm standing by a bulletin board, and I had looked in when he got out of the bathroom to make sure that he didn't leave a mess, everything was turned off, all that. But as I was standing by the bulletin board, I was reading it, and I heard like a loud blast of water coming out of the sink. And so at first I said, son, you didn't turn the water off? And he's like, yes, mommy, I did, because I didn't wash my hands. Of course you didn't, because you're a little boy. But anyway, I'm like, yeah, you did. So I went in there and turned the faucet off that was just running on high speed. And, you know, he kept insisting that he didn't turn the water on. And then I thought about it, and I thought, I just heard the water come on. It wasn't on before. And absolutely nobody passed me to go into that bathroom. So, yeah. Definitely a lot of experiences in that building. Not sure why, but they definitely happen. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little haunted tour, and for spooky season, I've been on a lot of ghost walks. I love to go for the history, nothing else. But if you like that video, please give it a thumbs up and comment. Have you ever been on a spirit stroll? I'd like to know. Do you like them, hate them? What do you think? Remember to subscribe, and I will see you next time.